Distinguished attendees of the Changemaker20 Summit, we now welcome you to this next session, a panel discussion on sustainable agriculture and food security that promises to be a cornerstone of inspiration and transformation. Our esteemed panelists and moderator, each of force in their respective domains, are here to ignite conversations that transcend boundaries and open new avenues for positive impact. Our moderator for today is Mr. Ian Roberts. Please take the stage, and without further ado, let's commence this invigorating exchange of ideas. Over to you, Mr. Ian.
And thank you very much for this amazing event. And you know, it's a live show, so we had a few small challenges, but they have been overcome. And I'm so grateful to have this opportunity, not for myself personally, but especially for the amazing team of panel members that have willingly come on and will impart information and solutions and their passion, because every one of them is a change maker in their own right, and they are amazing change makers around the world. They work on a global platform. I will introduce them all fully when I ask them the first question, but first I just want to say thank you to Francesca Fons, Annemarie Mostert, Ian Widder, Devon Pillay, and Johan Majola. They're all from South Africa, and I have the privilege and pleasure to know each and every one of them. So what I will do first, I will talk into it and keep it brief, because we've lost a little bit of time, and then I will start the conversation with asking each and every one questions after I have given them a short bio, because I can assure you, if I had to read the bio that they all deserve, 90 minutes would never have been enough. So I'll get started straight away. So, you know, this is about food security, and you know, we're living in a world at the moment where food security is everything but secure. And, you know, because we're here on the African continent, I found some statistics that truly shocked me very deeply. 280,000 people on the African continent die every day from hunger and poverty. And if that is not enough to shock you all, that is 3 people every second of every day. Hunger kills more people in Africa than malaria, tuberculosis, and HIV combined. Now, if we look at the overall picture for African continent, that's 282 million people on the African continent are undernourished, which is already 46 million people more than in 2019. Now, this is double the average from the rest of the world, and 30% of African population are acutely undernourished. Now, because this has been streamed from India, at the moment, India ranks actually 97th in the world in the fight against hunger, according to the International Food Policy Research Institute from 2020. Now, many people in India, particularly women and children, do not have had enough food to eat. Over 194 million people, or 14.5% of India's 1.3 billion inhabitants, are therefore also malnourished, and India also slips in the global hunger index from they're now ranked 107 out of 121, and that comes from the UN Human Development Index. They've fallen 6 positions just from 2021 to 22. Then when we look at 25% of those people live in poverty, which affects health, infant mortality, and malnutrition. And one of the solutions they recommend to eradicate poverty in India is increase the income of farmers. And this is where we come back to this whole idea of food security. But if we just have a quick look at the other side of that coin, and it is not getting on to America, but America is unfortunately an example that sticks out, because in the USA alone, we have actually 41.9% of people that are obese, with 73.6% of the population overweight, and that's the CDC zone figures. Now, there is another 37 million with diabetes, and 96 million have pre-diabetes, with 50% of them developing type 2 diabetes in the next 10 years, and that comes from the Cleveland Clinic. But as described, it is not a chronic and progressive, but reversible, because it's a dietary disease, and that came from a guy called Dr. Jason Fung of the Canadian Kidney Doctor. So when we really look at those statistics, and there are many more, we can already clearly see the disparity that exists in this world in so many areas. And around the world, we are actually growing enough food to feed 14 billion people. That figure was just told to me again this afternoon at a meeting I had. So the question is, Why are people going hungry in Africa and increasingly so in the rest of the world? Why is there so much poverty on the African continent right now? And what is the relationship between hunger and poverty and lower life expectancy? See, why are we not growing and supplying enough food, yet we are importing more than $100 billion worth of food into this amazing continent, leading to at least 150 billion by 2030? Now, these might all be great questions, but they all focus on the problem. So what are the solutions, and how can we work together to stop these horrific figures from getting worse and reverse that trend? And we need simple solutions that can be implemented now, not fancy ideas that will take massive amounts of investments and many years to implement at the cost of millions more lives and incomprehensible misery. We are running out of time. Kofi Annan even said, we have the opportunity to feed the world, but first we need to feed ourselves. And then the World Bank actually added to this. He says that growth in agriculture has an 11 times greater chance of reducing poverty in sub-Saharan Africa than growth in any other section. Now, I can talk a lot more about this, but with our food focus in this Changemaker20 Summit, I want to give the word to these amazing panelists who all come with wisdom, insights, and above all, amazing passion that I look forward to listening to all the things that they come and say to us. And I hope you've got pens and papers ready because you will need them. So let me introduce the first panel member and ask my first question. And I will introduce for the first question, and the panel member is Johan Majola. I was actually spent time with him this afternoon, but and as I said, every one of them gave me a short bio, and I really thank you for that because, you know, we wouldn't have enough time. But an empowering and accomplished leader, Johan is a dynamic and experienced leader, renowned for his ability to unlock the full potential of organizations. With over 15 years of proven success, he possesses a remarkable talent for making critical decisions and collaborating with professionals to achieve common goals. Johan's expertise in employee management and community engagement has played a pivotal role in steering Securicor through its initial startup phase. Under his guidance, the company has effectively tackled challenges, positioning itself as a thriving and sustainable agribusiness. Johan's visionary leadership inspires the team and propels Securicor towards continued growth and success. As he is the co-founder and CEO of Securicor Holdings, he has been leading his agricultural enterprise for over 10 years with exceptional vision and expertise. His strategic acumen, sharpened by his successful ventures in the food industry, has been instrumental in driving his company's growth trajectory. Johan's strong background in agribusiness management and innovative thinking has enabled them to expand into multiple provinces, secure lucrative contracts, and provide training and development opportunities to local farmers. He is unwaveringly committed to sustainable economic development and has successfully forged strategic partnerships which have propelled Securicor Holdings to new heights within the agricultural sector. And apart from that, Johan is also an amazing pastor, so he's passionate about people. So Johan, I want to open with a question that you have come with, and it says, you know, how can agricultural sector create more employment opportunities, particularly for youth, women, and people with disabilities?
I think the very first thing, if we look at agriculture by history, if we're talking about farming or farmers, then the focus is really on men. And traditionally, it's been a sector, if we talk about farming or farmers, then we think that men are the only ones or the stronger part of farming, or the guys that really handling farming. But really, we should change that narrative completely, because if you look at the talent that's there between both women and young people, in terms of the tenacity, the strength that you're getting from women in particular, the markets and the whole narrative of farming could always meant for men only. That's the first thing that we need to look at in terms of changing. Then I think we need to look at building some empowerment youth programs, establishing training and some mentorship programs that can equip young people with modern agricultural skills and entrepreneurship. If we can align that, it will help a lot, because it's one thing to say let's bring women into agriculture, or let's bring men into agriculture, but I think the most important thing is if you lay the foundation properly for both men and women or people with disabilities. That's the first thing that will help a lot, by sharing the knowledge, sharing the skills, putting them into a mentorship program that will guide them and that will help them in terms of growth in agriculture. Then we should be looking at gender inclusive initiatives, implement certain initiatives that focus entirely on women empowerment and gender equality in agriculture. Once we can run such initiatives, making sure that we include women in everything we do in agriculture. And if I'm saying inclusive, most of the time, again, when it comes to farming, as it is an industry that has been dominated by men, we would think that maybe if we bring women into it, it's more for the admin part of it or the office work of farming. Now, women also have the skills, women also have the capability, they also have the leadership ability to not only do the admin part, which we shouldn't even think of, it should go that way, but I am fully confident that women has got that capability of manning entire operations, from planning all the way to processing to planting, putting an entire team together that makes sure the operation on farming would run successfully. So basically the entire farming operation on any farm or in the industry, I believe that women has got that ability to be able to bend it. Then the other thing that we need to look at also in terms of both men, women, and young people is accessible infrastructure. It's one thing to say, let's include them into agriculture, let's include them into farming, but what tools do we give them? How much do we enable them to do the farming or to be able to run with it? And especially if we're looking at what for people with disabilities, we need to make sure that as we build our infrastructure and as we build the equipment that they need to use, the mechanism that they need to use, that it's built in such a way that it's easy for them to use, and it's easy for them to, if they need to, for instance, if you employ them onto the field, the way the tractors are built, the enabling of your equipment that you're putting into it, that will help a lot. And then I think also still in terms of that is to look at policies that we're building, policies that will make it very clear that as much as we do farming, the background from a man point of view, but build the policies of such that everybody from government to the private sector to the banking sector, even to the markets that we're opening up for them, that everybody do understand that it's not, farming shouldn't be, or agriculture shouldn't be a field that's seen or dominated by men only, but the opportunity should be fairly open to men, to women, to people with disabilities, and to young people. And I think the last part I want to mention, was we're still on that, is to also make it lucrative. The thinking of farming, especially amongst young people, is that farming is hard work. You have to be in the sun all day, and if you're busy on the farming, when you are amongst your friends, you standing out. And I think also the tendency of young people, because they do love kind of work where you're sitting in an office where you're wearing a suit, those kind of things, is to also change that and let them understand that farming is not only about you wearing or sitting on a tractor or you being in the sun all day, but to understand the business concept behind it, to understand the entire operation of it, and understand the contribution as a farmer that you're making to the nation. And especially as we are addressing the issue of food security, that you're really playing a pivotal role in the economy, and that you're playing a pivotal role also in not just in entrepreneurship, but also in job creation. So in conclusion, I would say is to really build the policies, the systems, the entire industry in such a way that everybody should understand that there is place for women, there is place for people with disabilities, and there is place for young people in agriculture or in farming.
Well, thank you for those initial insights already and the wisdom that you're sharing with us. And from there, it's my privilege to go to our next global change maker, and that's going to be Annemarie Mostert. And Annemarie Mostert is a distinguished social entrepreneur and a change leader. Her illustrious career is marked by her exceptional leadership and unwavering commitment to serving others. Annemarie served as district governor for Rotary International of D9400 in 2020 and 2021, where she demonstrated exceptional strategic vision and dedication to the Rotary cause. With a deep passion as peace builder and for women and children empowerment, Annemarie has been the driving force behind numerous structured skills, sustainability, and enterprise development initiatives. Her remarkable contributions with Rotary are numerous, and I can vouch for them. Annemarie has held significant roles such as being the personal Rotary International President's representative, international lead trainer, elected on the 2025 Calgary Rotary International Convention Organizing Committee, and recently selected as the strategic planning coordinator for Rotary in Africa, which comprises of 54 countries. Significant, in 2016, she, as one of 6 in the world, received the Responsible Business Owner from Rotary International at United Nations Open Day in New York. And as I said, when you mentioned, when Johan mentioned women and children, we've got 2 ladies here who will really vouch for this, but I look forward to asking some questions just now, and that will surely come out of the importance. But for your first question, Annemarie, can you explain to the audience the concept of food systems and the importance within Rotary International, which is a truly global organization, of course?
Thank you so much, and thank you for allowing us to actually give perspective from Rotary International, biggest humanitarian organization in the world. And therefore, I want to say our business professionals that coming together just find incredible solutions to the challenge. And what you are discussing tonight is really the biggest challenge, not only for peace, but for health and for everything else that goes with it. Because if there are no food around, you can just imagine the crippling effect in a community. But so Rotary International is really actively engaged in promoting sustainable agricultural practices through our various programs. And everything happens on club level. But the clubs collaborate and they join forces and they join actually the minds to find these incredible solutions. And therefore, I want to say to you, we support our local farmers. We also make sure that we provide them with modern techniques and modern training solutions so that they can actually yield more from the same land. And also very important, I think we advocates to promote the importance of our farmers around the globe. If it was not for our farmers, I mean, really, can you imagine where will the food come from? So additionally, Rotary collaborates also with organizations, as we've heard now from John, to establish community gardens, to establish, we're giving hand out the seeds, the tools, the equipment to actually make those farmers successful. So I think the most important from our side, we understand the pressing need and we try and actually support in the best way possible our farmers to grow own food and to improve nutrition around the world.
Wow, thank you again. Rotary, of course, play a very important role. I've just admit last week I finally became a Rotarian, and there is another Rotarian here already. So, and it's thanks to Annemarie and her husband Hans that, and my wife is also in the same group, but that I've now finally taken that important step and necessary step. So yeah, but to hear about all the different organizations that everyone is involved with. In this panel is absolutely stunning, and for my next one, I would like to introduce the next global change maker, which is Francesca Fonse. Now, she's the chairperson of Angelus Africa, project lead. She's the founder and CEO of the Angelus brand. Francesca Fonse is a professional entrepreneur with experience in the field of economics, business, pharma, health, and agri. She digressed into the UNGC Sustainable Impact Project specialist with interest in biopharma, real estate, green technologies, hospitality, conservation, tourism, modalities, green agro, and communications, just to mention a few. She is the creator of the inspirational multi-sectoral The Angelus Estates, a $435 million project with a lifetime accumulative job creation of more than 214,000 impact. Currently initiated with construction expected to complete in 2025. Angelus Africa is the lead to the planned Isha India multi-site project in 2024. The Angelus Estates is the only private member of UN Global Impact in Africa. She has initiated 8 additional sustainable projects in South Africa and another 19 planned, of which 15 are 14 African countries and 4 in Asia, per request. She is also the new CEO of BER Africa and the official national champion for women to the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, South Africa, since October 2016. Ms. Fonse will chair the ISHA India board for 5 years until the project implementation phase is completed. I keep telling, every one of these has got a much longer bio, but I'm just so grateful that they all kept it short, but I hope it's impactful. And I welcome Francesca to the panel as well with her first question. And that is actually something that, we're talking about sustainable development goals here, and they've selected 10 for this Changemaker20 Summit. But my question to you is, do you believe that the world can actually achieve the SDGs at current trajectory? And if not, what can be done to get us back on track?
I think it's going to be extremely difficult, Jan, to achieve the current goals by 2030. What we can do, though, as a global community is to ensure that we do whatever we can to ensure that we actually onboard these various sustainable development goals, and that we can move forward in achieving at least a good proportion of that. And remember, I'm speaking from the vector, or rather the lens, of Angelus Africa. When we look at our activities and what we want to achieve in Africa, we set ourselves the target of 1 billion multi-sectorial jobs for Africa in the next 15 years. And, to just give you a little bit more of a lens of who we are various businesses and international partners as well that formed or came together rather under the Angelus Africa portfolio, which is my portfolio. So it is not me, it's really a group of like-minded visionaries that came on board, and we took the template of the Angelus Estates and we adjusted it according to the various climatic conditions, of course, and cultural conditions that we encounter in the various sites where we want to operate. So really, when we look at achieving those goals, I think it's going to be very difficult. But sure, we are definitely going to do our damnedest to contribute that we can achieve those. And when we look at the current and the consistent, fine-tuning of technologies, then it could just be possible that we can get close. When we look at solar, Tesla has launched a solar panel that is recyclable. And for that, I'm very grateful, because the current solar structures is going to become problematic in the future, these panels. So we really need to look at everything we want to achieve with much more forethought and consequentiality than we have been doing up until now. You know, our motto is projects for planet and people. And we really put the planet a little bit first, because it's necessary. Because if you always put people, you know, ahead of your environment, it will go out of balance, which is what we have now. And that is why we need SDGs. So we really need to take care of the environment first, whilst we take care of people and we actually educate them, and so that they can become part of the solution of conserving the environment. We are and training farmers with up-to-date farming methods. We create jobs and we create entrepreneurial farmers. But we also, in the process, create conservation agriculture. We follow green solutions like, water recapitalization, bioenergy, geothermal, and with those, there's specific reasons, for instance, for us, why we would choose vertical axis wind rather than your normal wind turbine, because vertical axis turbines are far more environmentally friendly. And there's a reason why we incorporate bioenergy, because with bioenergy you get also your biogas, your biochar technologies, which then translate into fertilizer, natural organic fertilizer, animal feed, and carbon. Carbon in the form of terra preta is excellent to increase soil effectiveness. So we really look at our lens, our trajectory, our vector, and our lens is really very, very specific. And I think that is where we need to start focusing. And that is how we need to start approaching life and our responsibility towards SDGs, so that we can get closer to achieving those.
Wonderful, and thank you for sharing that. And you know what I'm really hearing is, and of course this is about one, particularly about one of them, but I mean they all cover it, because I think when we're talking about farming and all the different areas, I think in the complete agri chain, which includes every panelist knowledge and guidance and security and passion that we need, I think it covers probably most of the SDGs. From if you go from, somebody said, from farm to fork, if you take everything into consideration, what is needed, it'll probably, if you, I think underwater there is something yet, but I don't know if fish farming is included in that. But certainly they're all covered. But I'm also hearing that, you know, even though we're struggling at the moment with achieving through a variety of challenges that have occurred over the last few years, especially, there is always hope. But we need to unite and we need to work together, and that's why I'm just so happy that we've got such an esteemed panel and such a variety of members on our panel today. And when you talked about energy, I need to go to our next global change maker, and that's Devon Pillay. Now, I've had the pleasure of having him on a panel already last year, and yes, I'm sure that he's also looking forward to the more sustainable and the more environmentally friendly the renewable energy is, the more it helps him, because he's also in greening. But I'll read this shortened bio first, which we're very grateful for. Thank you. Devon Pillay is a recipient of the Standard Bank Scholarship and an Eskom Bursar. Is a professional engineer who has completed his MS engineering degree at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. He is also an accredited professional, AP, with the GBCSA. He headed a drive in Eskom focusing on demand response and energy efficiency for the large corporate customers in South Africa. He won the ESCOM Chairman's Award in the field of energy efficiency from 2008 to 2010. Devon is an external examiner for engineering MSc students in local and international universities. He has published and presented technical papers in many parts of the world, including the USA, UK, Australia, and New Zealand. He presently is reading for his PhD in engineering. He represented South Africa at the BRICS International Conference in Russia in October 2020 with a focus on the green economy. He is the group CEO of LTM Energy, a registered Tier 1 ESCO that has implemented several successful case studies in the energy and water management space, including renewable energy. LTM Energy has won several global and local awards for its innovative design in sustainability projects, including its proprietary utility software development over recent years. And I added to this because in the community building, he has also given 10% of company net profits to community social upliftment programs and supports the Food for Life program, which we got invited in to attend as well. That has provided over 8 billion meals now to date, and the Yanzani Children's Home provides sponsorship for economically disadvantaged engineers, students that show interest in the fields of energy, water, and waste management. Devon's challenge and passion is in providing innovative solutions and strong leadership in the green economy, and in so doing, reducing the global carbon footprint. Devon, also welcome to our esteemed panel. And yes, I also firmly believe that renewable energy has to be a massive part in the farming and the food security, because a lot of that is, we've heard some disastrous issues around the world because of a lack of energy, so we need to provide that. But your first question is a little bit different, and with the focus on youth in this summit also. My first question to you is, how do we actually bridge the gap between young and old, skilled and unskilled, poor and rich, to ensure all have access to training and development and access to basic services, and one is not disadvantaged in the process of doing so?
Thank you for the introduction. And I think just let's go back to the picture you painted, Jan. I think very important. You stated a very, I think, frightening numbers, the statistics that you shared. I mean, just under 300,000 people dying in Africa a day. That's scary. And what are we doing as humanity, just sitting and looking, or we're doing something proactive? I think the key point is, it reminds me, when you in the plane and they tell you if you hit emergency and the mask come out, you got to make sure that you have the oxygen first before you can help others. And it's similar. You got to eat first before you can help others in the world. Very important. And I think now we must reach out, as from a humane perspective, to do something about it. Now I believe that with the with food security as the subject matter, that it's very important to address two other things, which is energy and water security. For me, I believe that completes the nexus of life. Energy, water will give you food, right? And lead to sustainable farming. But to bridge that, you got to look like, organizations such as Food for Life, because you're not going to overnight have food, right? It's going to be a journey. So with that, I'd just like to set the scene. I think I embrace what Francisco laid the platform. It's also about sustainability and embracing clean energy, clean water, to look at sustainable solutions. And I think on cue, she mentioned about panels and looking at the full cycle, making sure that you get zero to landfill. Don't just look at renewable energy in isolation. Look at the complete cycle, and that's very, very important. But coming back to your point, I thought I'll just summate and how there's energy, water filter into the nexus of life. But coming back, Jan, to you addressing specifically, whether it is male or female, youth or the elder, skilled or unskilled. We use multi-talented people, multi-skilled people, different tiers of working with them in our current projects, and we've done it successfully. Okay. Now, we have an organization which I belong. I'm a vice president of the South African Energy Efficiency Confederation, which is pivotal in stimulating the green economy. And we're starting off with the focus in Southern Africa. And that belongs to one of the biggest green associations in the world, where over 100 countries are affiliated. And the key objective is training and development, right? Education and awareness is pivotal, and you can see the way we are tiered, that the focus is, we have a youth focus and we have a female focus, and then of course the professional focus. So it filters in capitalizing and focusing on some of these areas where it is most needed. Okay, we find the access, especially in the rural areas, it is quite challenging. And we have to go out there to ensure that it's not only about urbanization and addressing that, but in remote sites where we play a pivotal role in taking education to the communities. So we run a program where we call it Sustainability in Communities and Schools. It's called Project CICUS. Sustainability in Communities and Schools, right? And very important, what was mentioned and alluded, how do you develop these communities in a sustainable way? Whether it's skilled or unskilled, and how you make use of labor, especially in the remotest areas that's there. And what we've shown is that we can incubate, we can bring technology to the very needy, I would say, the segments out there, which requires sustainable solutions. And we've proven some great success stories in those areas. And it filters in touch points, whether it is, women, men, youth, elder, or and it is how you compass the entire community to gel together to bring about this, let's call it cohesive behavior, and we've shown that. I don't want to go into details with the technologies that we use, but I'll just give you clean access, especially if you don't have water and you don't have this, the piping, especially the grid. Then you will have to look at off-grid solutions, right, which will bring access to clean energy, and which we've done successfully. You're making use of second-hand shipping containers, okay? And then, of course, having solar panels. We heard of biogas as well. Those are all renewable energy sources. And then, of course, access to clean water. Typically, if there's borehole that's available. I mean, there is pros and cons of boreholes, or if there's lake nearby, how you filter that water. But using solar energy, because you need to pump it, right? To pump the water. So those are different technologies that we bring together, and we now bring skilled people that can help us, or we take skilled people to the remote areas where the unskilled people, how do we bring unskilled labor to semi-skilled and train from semi-skilled to skilled? So we've seen a success story in bringing that sustainable solutions. And then what do you do with clean energy and water? Is, you can grow, whether it is fruit or vegetables, or some for animal farming, and that's leading to sustainable solutions.
Yes, and again, it is all the pieces of the jigsaw coming together. It's not just for solutions for right now, but as everybody is mentioning so far, it's a sustainability of these things happening, because we need solutions. We need solutions today. We needed them yesterday. But I mean, that's why these conversations are important, that people learn about the different kind of technologies that are now available that maybe didn't play an important part or were not available 10, 15 years ago. But everything gets better, and everything also gets more environmentally friendly. But I mean, we need to use all we can to make sure that we we can get into this picture that we say, you know, looking in the years ahead, that we will have food security for all, because these numbers are not acceptable in any day. And as I said, when I did the maths on them at first, I needed to do it 3 times, even though I'm good at maths, because I couldn't believe my own work when I researched it. So wonderful to get that insight as well, and that we will all connect at any age. Yes, this is focused on the youth, but the youth need our support. They need, you know, they need to our help and guidance and support, because we can't push all this on their shoulders, because we didn't do what we could have done and should have done and might have done. So we're all doing our bit, but we certainly need to guide and support our youth to make sure that all these things can happen. So that's also wonderful. And of course, from here, last but certainly not least, another global change maker who sat there patiently and no doubt like me, listening to all this wisdom getting shared with each and every one of us. Ian Widdop. He's a consultant, coach, learning facilitator. And if you want to meet Ian Widdop, he is a versatile consultant, a coach, and a learning facilitator hailing from West Yorkshire, with a dynamic skill set spanning business coaching, project management, one-on-one and team coaching, learning course design, skill training, and writing. He brings a wealth of experience in business leadership and marketing, sales strategy execution. As a project manager at Aggregate, he led an initiative, I'm falling over my words just now, an initiative to empower young Africans in the Eastern Cape, equipping them with the resources needed to flourish as successful agripreneurs. He is also instrumental in shaping the Innovative Centre of Excellence for Adaptation and Resilience at the University of South Africa, UNISA, driving advancements in education and resilience. He's a director of the Meriting Youth Development Scheme, and he oversees an outreach program that imparts essential business skills to unemployed youth, facilitating their integration into the business world. Through voluntary involvement with Rotary, including projects like Seedling Farm 2, he contributes to sustainable food production and food security efforts. A 14-year member and former club president of Rotary, he is deeply aligned with New Dawn's service pillars: literacy and numeracy development, sustainable food production, and art education and creative enhancement. Welcome, Ian, also to our esteemed panel. And it is wonderful to have you also here. I can now say fellow Rotarian. So yes, so for you, Ian, you are, I know I haven't sat down with you, and I could see that the same as all other panel members, you're also passionate about this whole subject of farming and providing food. Could you tell me what you're actually involved in to address food security at the moment?
I regard myself as a facilitator amongst ahead of any other skills that you so kindly enumerated just now. That's what I seem to have done most of my life. Out of a very generalist background, I've found that's a passion for creating relationships. So that facilitative scope that I refer has led me into meeting lots of people, and I don't suppose it's by chance, but I've directed myself towards farmers. I like them. I know half a dozen or so really well. They all farm in different parts of the country. Johan Majola is one of my new ones, one of my new friends, farmer friends, and they have a resilience in their character that I wholly admire, which leads them to be extremely, where they can, successful agripreneurs, successful entrepreneurs. And I come along and ask them lots of interesting, what I think are interesting questions, and they seem to be stimulated by the contact. And so I get a sense of what's going on. I asked one of them this morning, what's the single biggest important thing for farming in this country? And he said, straight back on a WhatsApp, free market access. Free market access without fear of expropriation. And farmers will make it work. Farmers in many parts of the country are already making it work. It's amazing what's going on. And we all have this disconnect between some of the knowledge that we have about how farms are working and that enormous gap of that 14 billion 40 that you mentioned earlier, We could feed 14 billion on the planet, and several billions are in hunger poverty. It makes no sense. The farming as well. Then in Rotary, I see farming on a micro scale, in communities, in people's gardens, in their backyards, subsistence farming. Now, people are taking over the role of the government, which I think is an entirely laudable thing. The government's one of the reasons why that big gap exists around the world between food available and food getting to mouths. And we're no better off in this country. And it's interesting from this group alone how many people are coming up from civil society and saying, I can help. All of these people are saying that. So I'm really interested in that gap, that big hole in the middle. The macro thing seems to be working fine. A lot of very big farms are working extremely successfully, and everybody's attested to. Devon and Francesca, Anna Marie, Johan, all attested to that happening. I can see lots of opportunity for subsistence farming for communities growing nutritious vegetables. There's a lovely link between growing vegetables and therapy, which is well, it's not. I know about it about a year ago, but it's extremely successful. The gap in the middle, I think, could be answered by the thing that you mentioned that I'm involved in here. This has been a putting together a centre of excellence for adaptation, climate change, and resilience, community resilience, under the auspices of UNISA, University of South Africa, which was launched in May of this year, and we're doing the spade work, the groundwork now, and people are beginning to apply to do research in agricultural or agricultural-related, agripreneurial areas from all over the continent. It's very definitely a Pan-African initiative, and they're putting their hands up and want to do the research either in their own country or in South Africa. You know, but either is brilliant. And so I have no answer for that. I'm looking at Ayushi Sharma's question 30 minutes ago. What innovative strategies can be implemented? I think Ayushi's heard quite a few from here. A little of a sort of, I don't really know, but I think there's an awful lot of effort to be put towards why that gap exists and how we're going to. Devon talked about bridging it with his CCAS program. I thought that was fantastic. That's I think I'd like to stop there for now. Thank you. Thanks, Jan.
Yeah, and thank you. And yes, I mean, at the moment, there is a lot of gaps to be plugged, for sure, in this. And when you mentioned subsistence farming, and that is also a major problem, of course, because too many farmers, for a variety of reasons, you know, the lack of knowledge, the lack of support, the lack of finances, the lack of clean water, the lack of energy, all these kind of things are coming together. But you know, farmers are at the moment surviving, and as Johan and myself heard today, that farmers don't need a bigger farm. They need to be able to increase the yield on their farm, but they need all of the above. And that's one of the gaps that needs to be plugged. So if they become more profitable, then their children can also see that mom and dad are not just working 8 days a week, their fingers to the bone, and barely bringing enough food on their own table. Never mind getting that feeling of significance that they can impart all of this to the rest of the world, or at least to their communities. But so straight into the next question for Johan then, which leads into this really. Johan, could you actually provide a few examples of various forms of waste and post-yield losses in agriculture and food processing, along with their effects on food security, the agricultural sector, and financial returns?
Yeah, I think if you look at that point, I would like to start really from a planning point of view, because looking at the entire farming industry and the losses that we're sitting with on post-yield, what's the causes of it? And if you look at some stats, it's a bit scary actually, because there are some of the companies or the agri-farmers that's sitting with a post loss of up to 60 to 70% of what they've planted, which is quite scary for any business to sit in such a position. But there's a number of factors that contribute to that. And the one would be access to markets, as somebody mentioned earlier. There's a challenge that most farmers, or a lot of farmers, are sitting with land, and some farmers even with infrastructure or the finance to be able to plant. But where are you going with the product that you're selling? Because you find some of the commercial guys and even some of the bigger players in the game that will not give the emerging farmers or the upcoming farmers the opportunity to come into that space due to some policies they put in place or requirements that's been put in place. That makes it quite difficult for them to access the market. So we should look at really setting up or making it more accessible for farmers, upcoming farmers. And number two is the logistics around it. There's a big loss. We've seen to today. There's up to about $10 billion of what's been planted only in the last years. That's just gone straight to waste. And if we look at the production and the reasons for that, why it's happening, a portion of it lies in the quality of the product that we're producing or that farmers are producing. And it comes again back to the point that I raised earlier. With the right knowledge, skill, and the support or the mentorship that you're getting as a farmer, make sure that you connect to stuff. If I go in farming, and very interesting to say is, if we look at any sports, any great player in sports has got a coach. And because of the coaching that they are receiving, the sports person is doing so well. The same principle we should be applying it to farming in terms of a mentor, somebody that has done it before, somebody that is doing it better than you, somebody that's on a higher level or scale than you are. That person can successfully guide us or can successfully help you, teach you, train or mentor and give guidance as to what and how to do. Then we look at things like your crop losses that we're having. And that's, again, like I said, from the planning point, from the point where you're planting to the point where you're harvesting. And in many occasions, farmers don't follow the process of planting meticulously. And because of that, for instance, your seeding bed has not been prepared properly, and then you go and you plant. The competition that your plants will now have with the weeds that's growing, it makes it so difficult for the plant to perform and to reach its full potential because the bed has not been prepared properly. And then you look at the fertilizers that must be applied, or even the pesticides that must be applied. And in many occasions, people skip those steps and don't really view it as important. But just as you're bringing up a child, the right food for the nourishment of the child is important. The same accounts to your plants, that making sure that they've got the right nutritions. We're now sitting with better technology than 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 20 years ago. Is for farmers to really go out there, get to know what is out there in terms of these technologies, learn them, connect or collaborate with some partners that could help you in terms of improving what you're doing as a farmer. Because by bypassing or not opening up yourself to learn and to start to be the best basically in your farming operations that you're doing by getting a mentor and getting support and getting coach and getting to learn all these basic things. It's just helping you, if you do those things, to reduce the waste and also to make sure you're not getting a post yield where when you get at the end of the season, you, for instance, supposed to get 5 tons per hectare, and now you're sitting with the 3 tons or 1 ton per hectare. But if you followed the very basic things in farming, it already enables or already puts you as a farmer in a better position to produce the best yield and the best outcome for your entire operation. Then the other challenge is also access to finance in terms of farming or farmers, especially with upcoming farmers. And one of the challenges why farmers are sitting with that is, especially upcoming farmers, or most farmers in particular, is the fact that farmers are good in operations and farmers are good in running the day-to-day, but not all farmers really focus on bookkeeping, focus on making sure that your records are done correctly. Because when you go to knock on doors for your funding, they would like to see some reports, maybe a year's report, some even go to 3 years report. Is to make sure, man, I don't have the skills to do that, but let me get a bookkeeper, or let me get a consultant, or let me collaborate with a partner or somebody that is good in it to ensure that on that side I'm covered. So by the time you want to go and knock on doors, you've got a good track record in terms of your finances. And based on that, it gives the investors confidence to be able to invest in you. Because if you're sitting with that lack of funding, you can start to fund, but because of the lack in your funding, you would not be able to purchase your fertilizers or your pesticide, for instance, on time, and that will already have a severe negative impact on your output. So once again, all these factors, like I've mentioned, is your crop, is the knowledge, is the mentorship or coaching that you need to get, access to markets, access to funding. Let's make sure as farmers, upcoming farmers, or even farmers that have been in the game for ages, is ensure that all the basics are basically covered. Once that is sorted, we reduce the chances of us failing in the industry. And once again, understand the important role of you as a farmer that you're bringing to the economy and to food security.
All of this, yeah, I mean, there's so many things that need to be done, and you talked into some of the challenges and some of the possible solutions as well. So, yeah, there is a lot more that, and again, I mean, I know how passionate you all are about this subject. Let me go to the next question for Annemarie. Annemarie, you know, could you actually provide us with some insights into Rotary International's recent public-private partnership with the Department of Agriculture for urban farming, and how this initiative contributes to achieving food security and economic development, please?
Thank you so much. I think that, yes, we're running out of time totally, but I want to just say that Rotary really promotes, we're all coming from our position of strength. In other words, our collaboration, our PPPs, our public-private partnerships are critical and crucial. But I want to say that for me, and that's not only my personal view, but also for Rotarians, we are seeing these absolutely massive big farmers. But really, for us, is we focus on the man, the woman, the people that can actually provide food security in their own communities. And therefore, I want to say we have various programs around the world on microfinance programs, where we actually part with little monies to make sure that they can yield, that they can buy access to at least the seedlings, etc. But I also want to say, then make sure that there's a mobile cash kind of unit in that person, that farmer's hands, so that access can come to him, that finance can come to him. Because a lot of times they struggle to sell, they struggle to get the money there. And I can just tell you that Rotary is excellent in rolling out those solutions, because we have RAGs. It's called RAGs. It's Rotary Action Groups. Now we have Rotary Action Groups in microfinancing, Rotary Action Groups in sustainability in the farming industry, Rotary Action Groups just to sort of actually help everybody to also access markets, to do export, to do international relationships and collaboration with our fellows. So yes, you know, our public-private partnerships, because we come from our position, we've realized that we are not the end user. We are also not kind of the only one in the system, but we are seeing ourselves as enablers. We make sure that we unplug the gaps in the system to make sure that the farmer can be successful and deliver to the markets.
Yes, and I like to hear about this, you know, because the more options, the more solutions that all the organizations are bringing to the table. And, you know, I also heard that there is a great connection from Rotary with BNI and the Lions Club now as well. And so there is a lot more. There is a lot of uniting going on around the world, and the realization that between all of us, the best thing we can do is collaborate and work together. So I heard Johan and also talking about the financial requirements in everything that's happening. But Francesca, you also mentioned, and I've seen this already, that Africa's annual food import bill is projected to be 110 billion by 2025. I think it's close already. But is there really any hope that African countries can solve their food security by themselves?
Absolutely, I believe so. Yes, you know what, and very interesting. Myself and Pat Mbata in South Africa started the door-sized garden in a campaign in Orange Farm in 1988 to prevent people from starving. So very interesting, the township economies and the urban agro that can be created. But when we look at Africa, it is quite possible, through an organization like ours, to onboard existing farmers, to upskill them, to put them in a mentorship program, and expose them to renewable energy, to provide renewable energy, various forms of it, and to teach water recapitalization systems so that water is not wasted. And when we look at the technology that comes with the biogas and the biochar and how it actually feeds into the agricultural processing, not from plant to the end effect, which can also be energy, there's definitely hope for Africa. We start with farming in our projects because the skills can be effectively taught and mentored. And aside from the commercial value of farming and job creation, we teach the communities to successfully grow their products, not only for their own consumption, but also for markets. But own consumption is equally as important. And at the same time, we bring in the bioenergy, the geothermal solutions, and sometimes other solutions, depending on the climatology and also, what the EIA uncovers and how our conservation methods can be supported. And it creates the opportunity for agribusinesses and agri-processing on a large scale. We are working currently very closely with the AU through FARA, which is the Forum for Agricultural Research in Africa. And we are also assisting them with the planning of the Common Access Agri Parks, or the CARPs, initiative to make Africa food secure for the future. So we believe that renewable energy solutions will bring electricity and energy to the remote locations in Africa where the common agro-industrial zones will in fact be established. And we are also engaged with several African governments in the rollout of our projects. There are various African countries that already established substantial yearly GDP growth and are forecast to continue on this strength. So we are very, glad that we entered this mainstream and that we are in a consultative position at this stage, because it makes perfect sense to us. As we envision and will proceed with several large-scale projects also then for India and Pakistan in the future, onboarding existing skills, existing farmers, and preserve ancient knowledge, because very often there's knowledge that is indigenous to people in Africa and Asia, anywhere in the world, which is often overlooked. And we actually make sure that we pay attention to that, and that we can also learn and onboard from that perspective of agriculture in Africa.
Yes, I mean, the good thing is that we're here and there is hope. And I think there is a saying about that, where there's hope in the future, there's power in the presence. And I think when we can combine this power of people like each and every single one of you, and focus on the good that's already being done, because it's not about starting now. I mean, the reason that each and every one of you are is not just by coincidence, and not just because you might do some good, but you've all already done good for many, many, many years. And that doesn't say anything about your age. That just saying something about the passion and commitment that each and every one of you have got to make a difference in this world. And that's why it's a pleasure to have you all on it. Yeah, I thought I better stipulate that in case. Yeah, just in case, you know. So from there, when you talk again, we're going to go straight on to Mr. Energy, renewable energy at that, and freshwater, because one of the statements Devon showed me on a little avatar is energy and freshwater for all in Africa. So, and I know for the people many of them are here from India, and the people in India who are here, I think a lot of this kind of stuff is globally adaptable and globally applies to India, the Indian subcontinent, as well as many other countries around the world. It's not just for Africa, but it says because we've got such an esteemed African panel, we want to highlight not only the challenges we've got in Africa, but also the many solutions that these people are bringing to the table. So that's what I'm delighted about. So for Devon, for you, for the next one, what role, when we're talking about energy anyway, and what role does innovation and some of the disruptive technologies plays to help with this access on the, you know, to clean energy and water?
Sure. So firstly, I mean, since it's been hosted by India, we have a strategic partnership with Tata, and you know, Tata is a well-known brand globally, but coming from from India origins, it's very interesting to note that since India is hosting us, so we to provide this, it's clean access, for energy and water to all in Africa. It is quite a mammoth task, and Francesca, I think there's some great collaboration that we can achieve, and I think I want to actually have further discussions with her on what she is doing and how we can scale up our efforts together jointly. And I see that she's not only looking into Africa, but extending the horizon into other continents as well. So that's much appreciated. I think when it comes to innovation, how do you embrace innovation is key, especially new technologies that are coming out. I mean, we talk about solar, we talk about wind complementing energy sources, but about fuel cell technology now, which is gathering momentum, or different storage mechanisms like vanadium instead of the traditional lithium ion. When I say traditional, before we were using lead acid, now it's migrated to different other forms of storage, right? So I think that aspect, renewable energy mixes, whether it is, we talk conduit hydro, not to go into the details, but it's a different renewable energy mix. But the most important is how do you bring this to the fore and to educate and make people aware of this. Now we have a model when in Japan, they have energy hubs in each of the region. What we have committed to actually deploy second-hand shipping containers, off-grid energy, off-grid water, using second-hand shipping containers, and it becomes a energy and water hub, off-grid water as well. In that, it will draw people, and it's scattered around the various regions that's identified, working with government and major sponsors, like for a corporate, like let's say Coca-Cola or a bank, a major bank, they would advertise it, and you got this advertisement on a container. But the key aim is to draw people in the regions and to educate and make them aware. And obviously, pioneering technologies like the ones that I've mentioned, they become more aware of these technologies because you got to get that out, apart from using existing universities out there. So we're very strong in collaborating with universities, in collaborating with schools, and how we get momentum in bringing it out and educating the public, right? There's going to be constant change, especially in the green economy, where different technologies are going to come to the fore to keep abreast with these different technologies is going to be a major challenge, because I can tell you, firstly, people don't know the basics. You know, people are used to brand names such as a Toyota or a Lexus, and they can differentiate why a Lexus costs more than a Toyota. But if you tell them a Victron versus a SunSync inverter, it's not knowledgeable about which has got good quality. So it's about quality, and then what the technology supports and the limitations. So I think it's fundamentally very, very important, apart from bringing the technologies to the fore, the pioneering, innovative, disruptive technologies, to make sure that it filters out with these, you know, education and awareness, training and development. And we're going to give that, you know, a lot of attention and access. And the youth, how do we develop, I mean, right from the origin, how do we develop the youth to be interested in the green economy, in a green career, to know what's available? How do we garnish that? How do we make it a specific subject matter? Because we're moving away from the brown economy, from dirty energy. And that's going to be the new wave. And that's our challenge. And I think it's been, I'm very excited about the green wave. I'm very excited about some of the technologies that Francesca is busy working with. And how do we complement the resources, especially looking at biogas, etc. How do we get the Project Cycus in a scalable way, not only for Africa, but for the rest of the world? I mean, we talked about sustainability in communities and school in the remotest areas, because you want to provide access to clean energy and water to improve the quality of lives for all. And this is not only for Africa. We take the blueprint throughout the world. And those frightening statistics that you share, I think we have the solution. There is a problem, and the good thing, every problem, there is an opportunity. And I think the opportunity beckons in the green economy to come to the fore now.
Wonderful, yes. And, you know, as I said already, as you mentioned just now, you know, all these solutions that are available are global. It's not just for Africa. Of course, every panel member here wants Africa to be the front runner, or to, you know, to be the continent that they really are. But I mean, it's great to see that, you know, all this can be applicable in anywhere around the world. And we've been, because we started late, we've been gracefully given another 15 minutes. But first, before I want to ask you all a final question, Ian, your next question, from all your experiences and in your opinion, how is food security best addressed?
So, I'm vastly encouraged by this conversation, by the commentary I'm seeing down the sidebar of people who are listening in, and their comments, the questions they're asking, the comments that these marvelous contributors are making now, and I'm uplifted. I am uplifted by that potential sort of insights and solutions. I have a sense that there's a great sort of a confusing morass of stuff out there, and we've got to get it under our control. We're people who need to know, you know, dimensions. We're dimensional people. We live in usually a 4-dimensional space, and so we like to know that. So, and I don't know why this concept has never occurred much in the Southern Hemisphere, but I've written down here think tank. I wrote think tank down about 15 minutes ago when Devon and Francesca were talking. So I think we need something to sort of start to say, how big is this issue? We could start in a region, we could start in a country. That would be one of the things. How big is the playing field? What's going on? What's going on in everything? Everything. All the things we've talked about. There are so many loose ends flying around in this conversation, in this whole Changemaker20, I probably imagine, that I think somebody needs to sort of pull them together. And so who's contributing? Past, present, and future contributors. Well, what do we need? What resources do we require? Technology, people, funds, skills. What are the potential solutions? How can these solutions be implemented? So not just a think tank to think about an issue but to think about solutions and propose solutions and measure the implementation of those solutions. Do proper business work. Because it seems to me like everything's there. It's just like we can't quite grasp it all. Our minds are not working. Perhaps it's a bit too big at the moment. It needs some definition. And I think that would help a lot to drive projects. The big question mark that I put here at the top, funding, question mark, that we would need some serious funding probably. But it would start to throw projects in all sorts of directions, including food security, at whatever level we're talking about. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And yes, I'm hearing this a lot as well, and even from each and every one, you know, we're looking for solutions, but we need to get our heads together, and we need to finalize what it all means, and, you know, where we are right now. We know there is all the challenges that there are, but, you know, where are we right now, and how do we proceed further? And we're hearing a lot of solutions here already. Now, what I would love now is, with all the let's see background noise, but all the with the time that we've got available, another 17 minutes or so. But I would like each and every one of you. See, I've got plenty more questions. I came prepared with lots. But we need another 3 hours like this, and I would love that because I'm learning so much from each and every one of you. But what I would is for each and every one of you, starting with Johan. Somebody somewhere has it. Okay, but starting with Johan, you know, in 2 to 3 minutes, is there anything that you could say to the audience, you know, things that something important that we could all do, something important that could be implemented right now, or something important that they can take to their families, to their communities, to their farming communities, and you know, bring to them the hope and maybe some of the solutions that they can implement right now, or any idea that you've got that you would like the audience to know in 2 to 3 minutes. Starting with you, Johan.
Yeah. There's a proverb that says, if you want to go fast, then you go alone. But if you want to go far, then you go together. And I think, to me, one of the things that could help any of the farmers or any of our communities to really do well in terms of growth is, again, that strategic partnership. If you're in a silo and doing things on your own, it takes so much longer and it's so much difficult for you to get things done. But once you start to collaborate with the right partnerships with the right people, the different strengths that are coming on board, it just helps everybody else to grow. And especially, like I said, for emerging farmers or farmers that's trying to help with fighting food securities. Really, if we look at partnering with the right individuals, look at your strengths and what it is that you have a lack in. And then let's look for businesses or people or partnerships that has got those strengths that you don't have. And by connecting with them and learning from others, it just enables you to do so much better. So to me, that's a very important part, or very important one, is strategic partnership. Then lastly is continuous learning. Never stop learning. Never say we are at the point where I know everything or I know enough to do what I need to do. Always be open to learn, and always, again, move into to look at other farmers that has done what you still want to do. What is it that they have done differently? What are the learnings that you can take from there? So always open yourself up to get more in, because the more you can sharpen yourself is the better that you can do. So those two things to me is strategic partnership and continuous learning.
Here.
And yeah, thank you so much for those inspiring words of wisdom. And yeah, we need to take it all on board. And I think we're talking to the converted here on the panel, because I think everyone here is always learning and everyone is always looking for partnerships and collaborations in many forms. So yeah, thank you very much. Anna-Marie, would you like to share something with us that we can all take away or do?
If there's one thing that I want to point out is that we need to raise huge, shall I say, awareness around wastage. I mean, if we just think as individuals, we are 1.4 million Rotarians around the world. We cover more countries than United Nations. And if we can just play as Rotarians and non-Rotarians and our partners, the advocacy role, and create awareness to say, let's kind of protect our food resources, and let's actually look at the wastage. You know, there are so many people that really are going hungry. And then we find stuff in the fridges, stuff in shops. It's by sell by date. Sorry, it goes to the landfill. We must actually lunch out of landfills. And that is one thing I want to say. Less waste, less.
Yes, and I think everyone fully agrees. I mean, they say that, well, with the statistic earlier, that if there is enough food to feed 14 billion people at the moment, so it's not a shortage of food; it is the distribution of it and the wastage. So apart from the fact that, you know, the sad picture, we've probably all seen it, that people are scouring the landfills for anything that they can still eat. You know, life shouldn't be like that for anybody. You know, I mean, we need to lift people, and somebody said today, you know, a rising tide lifts all ships. And I think that rising tide is between people like yourselves, and to let people become more aware, because it's a global thing. But in the West, we heard today as well, I mean, that there was a lot more wastage in the West than there is in these countries, in Africa and in Asia, but wastage all the same. And every time we waste, I think there is an opportunity to feed people. So we don't have to stuff our fridges and don't even know what's in there anymore. We don't have to especially with in Africa as well, where we have the famous load shedding, power cuts, where food goes off early. We need to plan these things better, not only for our own future, but to make sure that you know, there is enough food for all, but we need to make sure that people get access to all that food. So a lovely and a wonderful point made, Anna-Marie. Thank you. Francesca, you're up next.
Okay, yes, you know, I cannot end this conversation without having the human rights activist turned gender activist coming to the fore. So I'm going to speak a little bit to women. You know, currently more than 60% of the food grown in Africa is grown by women. And 47% of the global frontline workers are female. Yet only 23% are C-suite representatives globally. Whilst the Scandinavian countries will achieve equality probably in 60 years, the rest of the world is looking at another 160 years. Now, there's a reason why our motto in Angelis Africa is projects for people and planet, but we actually use 5 Ps. It's projects for people and planet with profit, financial accountability, and presence. When you have presence, you know, and you look at business, it's not that form of capitalism that is just profit driven. It's not that linear. When you have presence, there's a certain degree of responsibility. The understanding that business is in fact a channel for supporting the reality of all of us on earth, that we are all interrelated, interconnected, interdependent, and consciously should contribute to the collective highest good. And therefore, I believe we cannot move the SDGs forward. I think SDG number 5, equality, is the most important, because if you apply that SDG to all the others, you will get that balance, you will get that presence, because that is what women bring. Women bring to the environment, and I mean, this comes from a study that Accenture did for UNGC 2020, 21, and 22. Women bring leadership, organizational planning, teamwork, intelligence, congruency, community, balance, effective communication, and focus in the workplace. There's nothing, no person as focused as a focused woman. And that is why historically, all the most of the PAs historically have been women. I don't say there haven't been men. I'm just saying historically, the biggest offices, the biggest responsibility was always historically held by women. So we really need to look at this, and we really need to look at ourselves as a species and understand not only our interdependence with each other, but also with this living, breathing organism called planet Earth that we need to coexist peacefully. So really, I would encourage everybody listening to this to understand that the SDGs were formulated the way they were formulated with good reason, and that we need to look at walking our talk in the future. And when there's a gender imbalance, and we are now specifically talking male and female, we know there's other gender responses, but where there's any imbalance and where there's all this prejudice upon this planet, we can never achieve the balance that we need to achieve, and we will waste our resources needlessly on conflict and just bloody stupidity. Thank you.
Yes, again, thank you very much as well. And I think it is indeed, especially the African continent has got more women in farming than any other, and it needs to be recognized that the amazing work that's happening. Yet, as you said, there is still a lot of disparity in the levels, which needs to be addressed, of course. But Devin, the floor is yours next.
Yeah, thank you, Jan. I think some interesting points that have been made. So I'm so glad to be part of this panel discussions and to embrace these different learning points and some success stories that came to the fore. I think, two important facts. It's a given. You birth, the day you're born, and death, the day you die. You come in with nothing, you go back with nothing. You're not going to take anything with you. And between the B and the D, birth and death, there's a letter C. It's up to you, the choice you make. And I believe the most humane choice that you can make is what you can give back to Mother Earth. And it's something that we, as a human, can make a difference. It's a choice that we can make and add value, that basic access to energy and water, which leads to the nexus of life being food to complete that, is important for all. And we should not allow any human being to be disadvantaged. And across the spectrum, I also believe that if you got something to scale up, you create it, you innovate, and you replicate it. And we've seen these several success stories that we went and embarked on. Take those. We heard about panels. I mean, it's going to be, it's going to be taken to landfill. Yes, it's renewable energy solar panels, but you can take those and make boardroom tables, for example. Now, if that is something as an option to prevent going to landfill, or taking organic waste coming from canteens and turning into compost, or if there's sufficient feeding stock to turn it into energy, waste to energy. Those are success stories that we replicate. And we can take it all over, and there's several success stories like that. I think it's very, very important that it's not only about pioneering technologies and innovative technologies. There are things that we can replicate to make technology and solutions available because of the problems that you outlined earlier, Jan. And I believe there's a solution to every problem, but it needs us to come together. And I think I embrace what Johan said. We have to collaborate as a team. I embrace what Francesca and Anna Marie said in terms of how do we bring technology to the fore, how do we bring women together and different gender, right? And working as the team to prevail to make that difference. Ultimately, it's our choice to make that difference.
I'll try that again. I says, yes, I fully agree that we need to make those choices, and we need to make them wisely, and we need to make them together. So thank you for that. And Ian, last but not least, please share with us.
So I wrote my word. I've got one word. I wrote it down just after Johan stopped speaking, but then Devon used it as well. So let me support Devon with his word collaboration, which he used towards the end of what he said a few seconds ago. I wrote focused. I'm big on interdependencies. Francesca used the word interconnectednesses, which is a lovely long word. I love long words. And Johan was, if we're going to go a long way, we're going to have to do it together. Please, let's do that. Let's collaborate. Let's collaborate in a happy spirit. I don't mind how the mechanisms are that work, but let's work together, men and women, age, middle-aged, youth, everybody, differences apart, differences together. Let's work together on this. We can do this. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you again. I mean, I would stop right there. Yeah. But really, I mean, for me, and somebody said that today as well. We were on myself and Johan were in a 5-hour meeting that blew my mind today, by the way. And you'll hear more about this. But it absolutely blew my mind and took me out of the box so far that I can't get in that box anymore. That's what happened. And Johan will agree with this. But I mean, it was mentioned people, planet, and profit. And it should be in that order. The profit should not be the first, but we can make money while doing good. But we need to do it in such a way that we can collaborate. And as you said, collaboration. We need to join together. We need to make sure that women are not only encouraged but appreciated and put in the rightful place, which many of them haven't got, as has been said before. We need to encourage our young people to join us in this cause, because this is all about young people. But I've been enlightened. I know there is hope for this world, and I hope that everybody who's listening to this, whether live or as a recording, also gets hope for this, but also starts having these discussions with the people in their own communities. And then not only have the discussions, because I sometimes say when all is said and done, often more is said than done. But the people you see in front of me here, the panel members, they're all massive, not just action takers, massive action takers, massive global change makers. And it is not because they have to, but because they want to, because it's a passion to make a difference to other people. So I want to thank Anna-Marie, Francesca, Johan, Devon, and Ian for spending this time with me and spending this time with each and every one of us. And I wish the rest of the Changemaker20 Summit the greatest of success. And, we look forward in any way that we can add together. So thank you all for being here. But I really appreciate each and every one of you, as friends, as colleagues, and as collaborators. Thank you.
Well done, Jan. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thank you so much. On behalf of our team, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for gracing us with your presence at this enlightening panel discussion. It has been a truly inspiring and informative session, one that would not have been possible without the collective efforts of our distinguished panelists and especially Jan Roberts, our attentive audience, and the dedicated team that worked tirelessly behind these things. So thank you so much.